Hello, everybody, and welcome back. My name's Don Arleth, and you're watching World Talks here on TVP World. Donald Trump's 2025 national security strategy has hit Europe like an ice-cold shower in December. The plan freezes NATO's open-door policy and demands Europe take on the bulk of defense and intelligence by the year 2027, a target experts call unrealistic. Critics warn it weakens the alliance and plays straight into Moscow's hands, leaving countries like Ukraine exposed to Russian aggression. Now joining me to discuss how this approach will play out for the alliance and the transatlantic relationship is David DeBatto, geopolitical analyst and retired U.S. Army counterintelligence officer. David, great to see you again, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, now here in Europe, of course, everyone, we're dealing with the fallout of the recent publication of this document. How will the strategy call an end to the perception and prevent the reality of NATO as it is as a perpetually expanding alliance? How will that impact countries like Ukraine and maybe even Georgia that seek membership? It's not like NATO wants them as members, but rather the opposite. How will this change of policy? How is this really even a change of policy compared to the Biden administration?
Let me answer that in just a moment, but I want to just open with a very brief statement, which I believe accurately describes this national security strategy. It's very brief, and it's from Elliot Cohen, who is a professor at Johns Hopkins University, and it goes like this. This national security strategy blithely careens between swagger about America's incomparable strength and terror about its narrowly averted collapse in recent years. It is, in short, an embarrassing mess of a state paper, which appropriately begins with a few boasts about Trump and ends without a conclusion. Let me just say again, before I get to your question, this is a unique paper. I don't think America certainly has ever produced a national security strategy or any national paper or report like this before. It pretty much is almost a campaign speech by Donald Trump and totally reverses meaning America's emphasis on supporting democracies around the world and fighting authoritarian regimes like Russia. So let me try to answer your question. What is this going to mean in Europe? What is it going to mean for our traditional allies? It's a mess. I mean, like you said, it's landed like a slap in the face, or being drenched with cold water, punched in the gut, whatever phrase you want to use. It's certainly nothing that Europe wanted to hear at this point. But let me say this at the outset. If I don't know what else the leaders of NATO and the EU need to hear from this administration, the Trump administration, before they realize that this is not the America that they grew up with. It's not the America that came about after World War II and helped build the current alliances. This is a transactional administration. The Trump administration only looks for what they could make out of this financially, monetarily. They do not really care at all about supporting democracies, about free speech, about human rights, about international law. The NATO and EU, they need to, of course, not publicly denounce Donald Trump and the Trump administration, but behind the scenes, I'm here to tell you, they need to write him off, meaning they need to write off America as an ally right now. And if they already haven't, start making plans immediately to defend themselves and build their own defense and their own economies post-America.
Right, and to your words, it isn't the America that they grew up with, and Donald Trump, well, he hasn't even finished his first year in office yet, but eventually this will come to an end. So this may be just a temporary rift between in the transatlantic alliance.
I hate to say that I don't think so. And why do I say that? Because coming from this side of the Atlantic, this side of the pond, the MAGA movement, the Make America Great Again movement, of which Donald Trump is the leader, is not just Donald Trump anymore. It has morphed into the general Republican Party. And if, for example, Vice President Vance becomes the next president, or even Marco Rubio or any one of the cabinet members in the current Trump administration, they will carry on the same policies, as incomprehensible as they are, of Donald Trump. And in my opinion, it may even be worse, because as incomprehensible and changeable are Donald Trump's policies, those that will come after him are not that flighty. They're very well-educated individuals, but they have the same opposition to supporting democracies, to supporting Europe and NATO and international law, and also are looking to what they can get out of it. When I say get out of it, I'm literally talking money. In my opinion, and I've said this before, this is the biggest grift in American history. They are looking to take what they can from whatever country they're dealing with, whether it's in Europe, Asia, South America, what have you, and they don't care at all for supporting democracies, the rule of law, international law, human rights, all the traditional things that America stood for all of our history, and certainly over the last 80 years. That's all changed. It sickens me, but Europe has to come about now. It's really too late almost for them to come around and acknowledge that the America they knew is over. This is a new world. It's not a great new world, but it's a new world where Europe is going to have to function without America. And in some instances, it's going to have to function with America as an adversary, hopefully not in a shooting hot war adversarial role, but certainly in a financial adversarial role.
So no more kicking the can down the road, as they say. Europe needs to wake up now. Well, we've been looking at somewhat of a paradox that Europe is doing everything that the U.S., that Donald Trump is asking. It's increasing its expenditure to 5% of GDP on defense. Meanwhile, Trump supports far-right parties in Europe who would never spend so much on defense, first of all, and especially to counter Russia.
Absolutely. Look, the long game in this, in terms of Donald Trump and the Republican Party, is not even bringing Europe around to spending 5% or 8% or even 10%. It really doesn't matter. The long game that Donald Trump and the Republicans, MAGA, are playing are re-establishing financial business ties with Russia. That's where they see the gold at the end of the rainbow. So they're going to hold out hope with Europe by saying, if you come up with 5% of your GDP and put it towards defense, then maybe we will still be there to support you. Maybe we will keep you under the nuclear umbrella and protect you. Maybe we will give you the status of our allies financially. We'll even drop the tariffs. They're going to continue to hold out those types of rewards for Europe. But the main goal here is to separate Europe from America, so Russia becomes our main trading partner and very possibly our military partner. And that's incredible for me to even say, but that is exactly where Donald Trump and this administration is moving America towards.
Well, that also seems like a major paradox. I mean, how much can the United States stand to gain off such a relationship with Russia compared to Europe? I mean, bilateral trade between Europe and the United States, plus, northward of $1 trillion. I mean, what are they really expecting to get out of Russia? Is it to enrich some certain colleagues or friends or associates of Donald Trump in that regard? Or is United States going to somehow benefit more financially than trade with the European Union?
Well, it's complex. You've made some great points, and I don't have enough time to explain it all, but Donald Trump has been known to shoot himself in the foot, meaning the tariffs, for example. He's been wanting to increase tariffs for many, many years, even though every expert in America has told him, no, tariffs are a direct tax on the American people. He doesn't care because he believes that is some leverage that he can use against countries like China and Europe. In terms of Europe, why is he pushing them away away, knowing that it's probably going to hurt America financially, because he and MAGA believe that Europe is going in the wrong direction. They are letting in too many immigrants. They're becoming godless, secular countries that are not, don't believe anymore in the traditional family. The same themes that he's pushing here in America. So he would rather lose financially, even though he doesn't believe he will, by pushing Europe away, because they are not the traditional or the allies that he wants anymore. He is very much pushing for an Orthodox, white, Christian nation here, which is another reason he's allying with Russia, because that's exactly the story that Putin pushes, an Orthodox, Christian, white, traditional family nation. He believes Europe is going exactly in the opposite direction. This national security strategy says that in many, many areas. So he almost doesn't care that he's shooting himself in America in the foot, because he and many in his circle are going to reap the rewards if and when they do secure new business in Russia. And he knows that, and he doesn't care if the rest of America loses out on that financially.
What would you suggest to the Europeans? How should the Europeans proceed with this and their relationship with the United States and Donald Trump?
It's a great question, and I hate to say that it's an easy answer, but I will say this. They have to double down on bending their knee. They have to humor him. They have to tell him whatever he wants to do, kiss his ring, call him the king if he wants to, say whatever they need to say in public, and do the exact opposite behind the scenes, behind closed doors. Have the meetings that hopefully are not recorded, and do the exact opposite. Prepare for a Europe without America, wind up their defense industries, prepare their financial futures without America, look for other allies. The most important thing I would say to Europe is they've got to find common ground. They need to have some unity. They still don't have it. Europe needs to have unity. They have to come together as one single force. They're the largest economy in the world if they work together. So flatter Donald Trump in public, work behind the scenes totally against him, and be a unified entity that does not depend on the United States of America any longer, because they just can't.
Final question, very brief one. Where does China fit into all this? Does Europe now start to look east instead of across the Atlantic?
I don't think so. I mean, China is trying to, as you know, make headways into Europe very, very strong. They're just investing billions and billions of dollars into Europe. I think that Europe needs to be somewhat in the middle. They shouldn't, and I don't think they will throw their lot in with China. But they also have to play the game. They have to play the diplomatic game by saying that, yes, maybe we need to work with you, and in fact, maybe work with them a little bit, but at the same time, again, becoming totally independent of both the United States and China. Europe needs to focus on itself and be its own boss, and not throw itself in with East or West anymore. That's a failing future. And I know that the leaders of Europe know that. So sure, play the game with China as well, but become a unified, independent source.
Very sobering assessment. David DeBatto, geopolitical analyst, retired U.S. Army counterintelligence officer. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
And that concludes this edition of World Talks. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.